You've seen it dozens of times, but never noticed. Your favorite 90s films hide such obvious mistakes that, once you spot them, you'll never be able to watch those scenes the same way again. Disappearing items, actors forgetting they're on screen, and even cars that simply couldn't have existed at that time. All of this was hiding in plain sight. Ready to flip your view of iconic cinema? Let's go. Now, let's count all the bloopers and inconsistencies left behind by the creators of The Fifth Element. Even in this bright cosmic world, there was room for unexpected details. Switching boys. The boys standing outside the Egyptian temple look completely different from the ones inside. No surprise, since the exterior scenes were shot in Mauritania, while the interiors were filmed in the UK. Looks like the boys were cast locally. Teleporting camel. A white camel sits second from the left, but a few seconds later, it's suddenly at the edge. This camel clearly has teleportation skills. Disappearing stick. A stick unexpectedly vanishes from a boy's hands when the camera angle changes. Looks like someone from the crew needed it for another scene. Traveling bowl. The professor holds a bowl in his right hand, then a brush, then the bowl again. Seems like even the professor doesn't know what he's holding. Glowing ship. The ship blocks the light above the temple, yet the professor can still see his workspace perfectly. Must be mood lighting guiding his way. Handprint on the idol. There's a handprint on the idol's shoulder, even though no one touched it. Inconsistent dates. The story starts in Egypt in 1914, and according to the Mondo Shawan, evil will return in 300 years, meaning 2214. But the screen says 300 years later, and Corbin's alarm clock reads 2263. Looks like someone miscalculated. A timeless Mauser. Billy is armed with a 1932 Mauser pistol, even though the year is only 1914. Billy must be a time traveler. Jumping tripod. The tripod behind Billy stands, then falls, then stands again. It seems to have a mind of its own. Fire in space. The Mondo Shawan ship catches fire in the vacuum of space. Apparently, this is a new type of cosmic combustion that defies physics. Chromosome confusion. Professor Machtilberg claims that more chromosomes mean a more advanced organism. But some plants have more chromosomes than humans. Predictable glass. Before Lilu breaks the glass, cracks are already visible. That's some very foresighted glass. Disappearing train tracks. A train rushes past Lilu on the skyscraper wall, but when she decides to jump, the tracks suddenly vanish. That must be a phantom train. Self-healing label. The word automatic on the button is half erased, but a few minutes later, it magically reappears. Must be a self-repairing button. Film crew reflection. During the chase scene, a crew member's reflection is visible in Corbin's windshield. Looks like someone from the team wanted a ride along with the heroes. Mysterious McDonald's card. A card appears on McDonald's boxes out of nowhere, then vanishes just as suddenly. A limited time use card, perhaps? Reverse text. Text on police car screens is displayed in mirror image. Maybe it's some kind of new encrypted communication system. Lilu's knowledge from the future. Lilu asks for Vito Cornelius by name, even though she's been asleep for 5,000 years and couldn't have known him. Maybe she learns in her sleep. Must be audiobooks. Corbin's verified information. Corbin brings Lilu to Cornelius, saying there's no record of her in police databases, even though he never had time to check. He must have a special instinct for information. Lilu's shifting tattoo. Lilu's tattoo appears on her right arm, though it was originally on her left. Also, the design differs from the hieroglyphs on the wall. Looks like the tattoo decided to adjust itself. Zorg's mood sounds. A metallic clank first comes from Zorg's right leg, then from his left.
Excuse me, sir. The council is worried about the economy heating up. They wonder...
Even the sound decided to mix things up. X-ray invisibility error. Zorg claims the ZF-1 is invisible to X-rays, even though its titanium casing should be detectable. Looks like even Zorg doesn't know all of his weapon's secrets. Mirrored control panel. The cockpit control panel suddenly flips its reflection. Must be a futuristic, reversible panel. Zorg's right hand won't stop. The right hand of Zorg should have been blown up in the explosion, yet he somehow remains standing. This guy just refuses to quit. Corbin's vanishing jacket. Corbin goes after Lilu wearing a tank top, but moments later, a jacket appears on him. That jacket must have teleportation powers. Ruby Rod's disappearing entourage. The group standing behind Ruby Rod suddenly vanishes between shots. They must have decided to take a break at the worst possible moment. Zorg's suitcase disappears. Zorg leaves his suitcase by the door, but in the wide shot, it's gone. Seems like the suitcase wanted to hide from the camera. Corbin's self-destructing sleeves. Corbin's shirt sleeves are intact, then a second later, they're almost gone. Maybe the shirt got tired of all the action. Hands up and down again. When Corbin surrenders to the Mangalores, he raises his hands, then lowers them, then raises them again between shots. Must be his signature greeting. Vanishing bodies. The bodies that should be lying at Zorg's ship entrance disappear within seconds. Maybe they have fast vanishing skills too. Shape-shifting stone. Corbin picks up a stone with horizontal stripes, but when he places it down, the stripes are vertical. Mysterious shadow. As the evil sphere approaches Earth, a strange shadow appears in the foreground. Perhaps an unidentified cosmic object. Weather on demand. The sunny weather over the temple suddenly turns cloudy, but the space view still shows clear skies. In the future, the weather must have a mind of its own. The fantastical universe of the Fifth Element is full of surprises, but little details like these make it even more colorful. Have you noticed any of these mistakes while watching? Let's take a look at the many small continuity errors and slip-ups in Men in Black. At the beginning of the film, we hear a dragonfly buzzing, even though these insects don't actually make this sound. Agent K identifies an alien with a fake head that doesn't even have a neck. But moments before, the man had a visible neck and even part of his chest. In the same scene, a female immigrant looks directly into the camera. A tree catches fire and briefly burns brightly, but then suddenly dies down almost instantly. It's unlikely Edgar, who's carefully examining a crater, could miss spotting a huge cockroach. And it's odd that the bug later has human-like eyes, since the Edgar disguise shouldn't have any. When Edgar's wife adds sugar to his water, the base of the bowl reveals the Sony logo, a serial number, and a barcode on the prop. The bug pulls his head skin back tightly, warping his face, but in the next shot, his face is back to normal, with him simply holding on to his hair. In the same scene, his teeth are visible, which shouldn't be possible with just the skin pulled back. The address on the business card is initially below the logo, but shifts above it in the next shot. A table appears to move from the center of the room to the side between shots. James is wearing a t-shirt, but suddenly, he's in a dress shirt when he grabs his shoes, only to switch back to the t-shirt in the next scene. Reflections show the Bugs van just arriving at the shop, yet it oddly appears to re-arrive in the next shot. Agent K's legs change positions between shots, and the chase scene is clearly sped up for effect. The word good in the cafe window is missing its first two letters when filmed from inside. The name tag on the cat Orion's collar is in different fonts in various scenes. When the bug exits the restaurant, he knocks down one passerby and threatens another, but after a change in camera angle, the second person disappears. Reggie's car appears to be stuck in traffic, although no other cars are around. Oddly, his wife only starts yelling when the camera cuts to her. Additionally, Reggie is supposedly trying to leave Manhattan, yet his car is pointed toward it. After getting paid by Kay, a newspaper vendor glances into the camera. The necks of two aliens don't show any signs of the holes the bug made, and one even has a visible pulse. It's also unclear how one alien managed to eat or drink in the restaurant with no mouth opening in his fake head. In the same scene, the weight scale needle changes positions between shots. When Edgar storms into the shop, his van outside has a smooth roof, despite previously being damaged and covered by a spaceship. Kay watches his girlfriend through a satellite positioned at an angle as though it were on Earth rather than in space. Also, satellites don't track moving objects so smoothly. In the projection of Orion's belt, the star Alnitak is spelled Allentak, and the stars are incorrectly positioned in a straight line rather than at different distances from Earth. When Jay hits a wall, he knocks some boots onto the floor, but in the next shot, they're standing up again, only to be back on the floor afterward. The bug leaves a shotgun by a window, but when Jay arrives, it's suddenly gone. Laurel wears brown shoes when she steps on the gas, yet later at the spaceport, she's wearing different footwear. In the background, Kay types in an odd way, while steel structures sway unrealistically under human weight. Jay throws a rock at the bug, but it disappears mid-shot. Jay stands to Kay's left, but after a cut, he's suddenly on the right. After being covered in bug slime, Kay and Jay appear in the next scene with spotless, dry suits. The director claimed the suits were slime resistant, though this doesn't explain the clean hair and skin. In the newspaper, it says that player number 20 missed the ball, yet he actually wears number 23. Which mistake do you think is the most noticeable? Share in the comments.
Smokin'!
Now, let's start counting the movie mistakes and errors in The Mask. But first, pause the video and make your prediction in the comments. Starting with the mistakes. At the beginning, when the diver discovers the chest, at least 24 stones lie on top. However, in the next shot, there are far fewer. Also, the chains on the pipe being lowered into the water change positions multiple times. When Tina wants to open a bank account, Stanley's tie suddenly flips over his left shoulder. When Dorian burns Nico's eyes on a photograph with a cigarette, he holds the photo differently in close-up and medium shots. In the auto shop, Stanley picks up a temporary car, a 1951 four-door Studebaker. However, the car that falls apart on the bridge looks slightly different from the one shown earlier. Just before this, near the club, a passing car splashes Stanley, leaving stains on his shirt and suit. But in the next scene on the bridge, the dirt magically disappears. When Stanley comes home after retrieving the mask from the river, he enters his apartment and sits on the couch with his pants perfectly dry and clean. After transforming into the mask, he jumps out a window, shattering the glass, but no shards fall to the ground. Similarly, when he shatters car windows with his horn, the glass disappears from the hood, and a mannequin is clearly visible in the car. During the dance scene with Tina, the mask's hat mysteriously vanishes, a shame as it suited Jim Carrey well. When Lieutenant Kellaway knocks on Stanley's door while he's asleep, the mask lies half on a red pillow and half on a green sheet. In the next shot, it shifts to the center of the pillow, only to return to its previous position. The mask may perform miracles, but he's also quick at adjusting his clothes. When he spins around a pole, his shirt untucks, but immediately tucks itself back in. When Tina hits one of Dorian's henchmen, a scratch appears on his cheek, but later disappears. Between these shots, we see Stanley lining the toilet seat with paper, which then disappears. A little earlier, his jacket also vanishes when he goes to the window to see the dog. The window bars even bend slightly as Stanley removes his hand. Dorian's limousine switches from a Cadillac to a Mercury as he catches Tina and they drive to the club. Milo grabs the mask by the chin but lands holding it by the forehead. Immediately afterward, one of the henchmen grabs Milo by his back legs, standing on a blue and white floor, which becomes entirely white when Milo transforms into a cartoonish pit bull. When Stanley punches Dorian in the face, his tie is loosely knotted, but in subsequent shots, it suddenly tightens, though he had no time to adjust it. Later, during the shootout, Dorian's men fire at the mask hiding behind the bar. When they finish, the central henchman removes and drops an empty magazine twice. Then, we see the mask swallowing a bomb, and its red LED countdown timer becomes a black sticker with white numbers 0100, which makes no sense since the previous countdown was 006. In the final scene, the bridge where the characters stop appears high above the river when viewed from Stanley and Tina's angle. But when Charlie jumps into the river, the water is much closer. In one scene, a jar of peanut butter with a knife sticking out of it is visible, a subtle way the crew encouraged the dog to lick Jim Carrey's ear. Now for the factual errors. In The Mask, Loki is referred to as the god of evil, which is incorrect. He's the god of mischief, deceit, and cunning. Nonetheless, Loki's character is represented fairly accurately, with his dual nature mirrored in Stanley, the light side, and his rival, the dark side. Jim Carrey's Cuban Pete dance is called a rumba, though it's more like mambo or samba. At the beginning of this scene, black knee pads are visible under his white pants. When Dorian in The Mask sucks in bullets, the casings remain attached, which shouldn't be the case. Occasionally, you can see a pink patch on the back of the mask covering Jim Carrey's hair. Furthermore, the actor's lip movements sometimes don't match the dialogue. For instance, Dorian's scream doesn't sync with his mouth when he's flushed into the fountain. Additionally, when Nico hits the golf ball, the display reads 163 yards, but the machine's voice says 205 yards.
205 yards.
Of course, the film didn't go without its share of goofs, but before we get into that, let's take a closer look at the movie poster. Richard Gere's hair appears dark, even though in the film it's graying. And as for Julia Roberts, only her head is actually in the image. The body belongs to her body double, Shelley Michelle. Now, how many mistakes do you think are in this cinematic masterpiece? Pause the video and write your guess in the comments. At the end, you can compare your result with ours. Let's start counting. At the party scene at the beginning of the film, Edward mistakenly says that the Tokyo Stock Exchange opened an hour and a half ago.
You don't know? Tokyo opened maybe 90 minutes ago. You have to keep on top.
Given the time zone difference, it should be the middle of the night in Los Angeles, not noon. A bit later, we see Vivian using a black marker to cover up scuff marks on her boots, holding it in her right hand. However, both Julia Roberts and her character are left-handed, as can be confirmed later in the film when she writes in a notebook.
Hey, Sugar, you looking for a date?
There are also several continuity errors in the scene where the main characters meet. Vivian approaches Edward's car from behind, but when she peers inside, it seems as though she came from the front. She also tells him to turn on his headlights.
Lights. Lights would be good here.
Even though they were already on while he was driving.
No, that's rent.
When she gets behind the wheel of the Lotus, she buckles her seatbelt.
Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do.
But in the next shot, she's unbuckled. She also states that this model has a standard 4-speed H-pattern transmission. but in reality, it has 5 gears. When Edward and Vivian enter the penthouse for the first time, the curtains in the room are light colored, but the next morning they are suddenly blue.
I assume cash is acceptable.
Cash works for me, yeah.
The $100 bill that Edward gives Vivian is placed inside her boot. Yet later, when she removes her shoes, the money is nowhere to be seen.
I took the liberty of ordering everything on the menu. I didn't know what you'd like.
The breakfast scene is a classic case of continuity issues. Because it was filmed in multiple takes, Julia Roberts switches between eating a croissant and a pancake in a matter of seconds. The pancake itself changes from being partially eaten to whole again, and the items on the table constantly shift positions between shots. In the bathtub scene, Vivian's portable cassette player mysteriously changes position,
I don't have to undress me.
and the lyrics to Prince's Kiss play out of order, with her repeating the same line twice.
I just want your extra time and your kiss. I don't have to undress me.
All right, Miss Vivian, one more time. Dinner napkin.
Dinner napkin.
When the hotel manager, Barney, explains dining etiquette, he picks up a salad fork and says it has 3 prongs. But when he puts it back on the table, it clearly has 4.
But if you get nervous, just count the times. Now, 4 times, dinner fork.
Also, the complex system he describes for identifying the correct utensils isn't accurate. Real etiquette simply requires using the outermost utensils first and moving inward. Later, when Edward comes to pick up Vivian for dinner, he holds the phone in his left hand and a briefcase in his right. But as he talks to the manager, his right hand is suddenly free, and then he reaches for the counter to grab his briefcase, yet we never saw him put it down. At the dinner with Mr. Morse and David, the ice cream in their bowls appears and disappears throughout the scene. At one point, the waiters take the bowls away, but moments later, they are back on the table.
I've heard enough of this.
Edward.
When Vivian goes to the boutique that previously refused to serve her, the store's location seems inconsistent. It appears on different sides of the street in different shots. Later, when she returns to the hotel, her purse inexplicably switches from one hand to the other. During the bubble bath scene, the soap suds on Edward's chest vanish and reappear. At the polo match, Edward's tie is tied differently in various shots. Meanwhile, Vivian's toes are covered in bandages, but when she removes her shoes back at the hotel, the bandages are gone. When Edward pays Vivian for the week, he tosses what looks like 11 or 12 bills onto the bed. However, in the next shot, the money has shifted positions and appears to have increased in number. During the confrontation between Vivian and Stucky in the penthouse, Stucky's wine glass switches hands multiple times. When he lunges at her, she rips off his watch, which visibly flies off to the left. Yet moments later, when Vivian bites him, the watch is back on his wrist, only to disappear again in the next frame.
What are you doing? Get up!
Stop.
Fun fact, in this scene, Richard Gere accidentally knocked out part of his tooth, and you can see him subtly moving his tongue inside his mouth after the impact. As Vivian drives away from the hotel in a limousine, a Rolls-Royce is seen parking behind it. However, in the following shots, the car is completely gone. Also, in the same scene, Barney, played by Hector Elizondo, can be seen briefly looking directly into the camera. When Edward hands Barney the ruby necklace and earrings to return to the jeweler, one of the earrings is visibly missing a stone on the front. In the film's final scene, Edward is deep in thought as he drives, with rain pouring outside. But when he arrives at Vivian's building, the pavement is completely dry. Then, just moments later, the street appears wet again, as if it had been raining the whole time. Vivian, meanwhile, somehow hears Edward's car horn, despite the fact that he is still at least a block away. She quickly lets down her ponytail and fluffs up her hair, but in the next shot, she is standing still, smiling, with her hair perfectly styled. Throughout the movie, Vivian's hair repeatedly changes from long to short and back again, and even its color varies from scene to scene. Also, the bouquet of flowers Edward brings her at the end of the film noticeably increases in size. As we can see, Pretty Woman is full of little mistakes and inconsistencies. Did we miss any that you've noticed? Let us know in the comments. Even the cult classics of the 90s aren't perfect. Now that you know these mistakes, watching these scenes like before just won't be possible. Maybe you hunt for movie mistakes yourself? Write in the comments. Maybe you're more observant than we are. Though, we'll have to see about that. This was Movies Inside Out. Here we spot even what should have stayed behind the scenes. See you in the next videos.